Today we're going to make the fork for the steam valve and also the steam valve itself. I'm going to make the fork out of a piece of 12mm square stock because that's all I've got. I've got big enough to make that, and I've also got this piece of brass, which this end piece that's left on here, that piece should be big enough to make the steam valve. So let's get over to the lathe, get that in the chuck and get this turned down to start with, and then we can do the fork on the end. Right, I'm going to set it up in the 4-jaw. It's a scroll 4-jaw chuck. And then put a tin hole, put the outside on. Right, I've got to machine this down now to 74.5mm long by 5mm. Right, it's 5.5. I'm just going to let that cool down for a minute because it's quite warm, and then I'm going to remeasure it. Right, I've got to put an M5 thread. M5 thread, got to go 15mm down there. That's to screw into the little block that goes on the steam valve. taken over to the mill now. The thread on there, got the relief to go into the top of the steam chest. We're going to get this end milled down now and get the fork put on there so we can attach it to the slide. Right, just going to get this machine down to 10mm. It's currently 12mm. Right, got that machine down to 10mm now. I'll put some black Sharpie on these two faces just so I can keep a bit of a control of what way up it is, because there is a couple of microns difference between the two sides. So anyway, let's get the slot put in. Right, I'm going to make a start on the steam valve. Just going to get this down to dimension initially. Right, I've got the piece set up now in the vise. What I'm going to do is mill the pocket out first, otherwise if I don't, that means I've got to grip it in the vise on these, which I don't really want. I'd rather leave a little bit more meat in while I'm gripping it, otherwise I'm going to be just on this tiny edge. So I'm going to just mill the pocket in first. It's only 11mm by 11mm by 4mm deep, so I'll just black the surface off, but I'm going to edge find this piece and then I'm going to set it up on the DRO minus the cutter width. It's an 11mm square hole for the steam valve. I'm using a 10mm 2-flute router bit. And to save you commenting, I already know it's not a drill, as somebody commented before. But anyway, I'm going to plunge that down to 4mm, and then I'm going to clean the hole up with a smaller cutter, so it gives a nice tight corner. Right, got that down to 4mm now. So what I'm going to do, put a smaller cutter in, something like a 3mm I think, and just clean the rest of the pocket out. Right, I've got a 3mm cutter in now. I'm going to cut the rest of the pocket out. There's the steam pocket milled out. So now need to flip it over and mill these out for the rod. One's for the rod and one's for the piece that this piece screws into that moves the steam valve up and down. I don't know what that piece is called, but anyway, that's what we're going to do next. Right, initially I'm going to take off the outside measurements, which in this case is 1.5 millimeters there, 1.5 millimeters there, and on this side it's 1 millimeter, 1 millimeter, and then we'll do the two center portions. Right, that shim is 0.32 millimeters, so if I now lower this by 0.32 millimeters, I'll be on the top face. Right, I've now swapped the cutter out and gone back to the absolute dimensions on the DRO. I'm just going to set the cutter height using the same shim. Right, set the 0, come down 32, lock it off. It should be exactly on the money. Yep. So we've got to come down. So if I zero that back out now, I've taken up, compensated for the shim. The bottom of the cutter is now at the top of this. I've got to come down 8 millimeters on the centers, both directions. I've now got a 4mm slot through there. I'm now going to take off 0.5 millimeter either side just to clean those outside faces, because it's got to be a 5mm hole, 5mm slot, sorry. Right, now we've got to centre up the other way. Raise the table back up to 0.5 millimeter. There we go. Make our first pass. Right, that's all milled out now. give that a little bit of a clean up, and then I'll show you that. There it is. That's the steam valve, the little pocket. And that is this piece here. I'm just going to make this little piece here that goes in the back that this rod screws into, which is able to operate it, which is this piece here. Sorry, it's this piece here, which goes into there. Right, I'm going to have to remake this part here, because as I was screwing it into the retainer in the steam valve, for some reason it was a bit tight, and the thread just snapped. So anyway, this is what it is. So I've got to remake it. So this time I'm going to do it slightly different. I'm going to do this end feature first, and then I'm going to turn that down. So let's get over to the mill and get this done. First thing I need to do is to square off this end. Well, actually I don't need to square off this end because it's going to be rounded, but I will square it off because it'll make measuring easier. So it's now 1191. I need it down to 10 millimeters, so I'm going to just skim a bit off all round. So I've got to take 1 millimeter off each side, so I'll touch off and then use the DRO to do that. I don't know about you, but I hate those little chips from side milling. They're just like little razor sharp needles, and you always end up with one in your fingers somehow or other. Right, next operation is to put this slot in. Now it's got a square bottom, so I've got to stand it up to do it. So yeah, I'll get that stood up right in the vise, and then I'll mill this slot. We'll flip it round, drill the hole, and then put the round on. Alright, got that set up in the vise. I'm using a parallel. Yep, I was just using a parallel to make sure that's standing upright, square to the vise. We've got to go to a depth of 11 millimeters. So we have to take that nice and easy. Right, that's a 4mm cutter, and I need a 5mm slot, so I'm going to side mill 1/2 millimeter off of either side. Right, just get that cleaned up. In hindsight, I should have drilled the hole first, because that would have been a little bit less to mill away, and there wouldn't have been so much flex in this, but it's fairly solid, so I should be okay. But had I planned it a bit better, then I would have drilled the hole first. that's drilled and reamed. I'll get the little mini rotary table up here and then we'll have a look at that. Right, this is first time out for my little rotary table. I wanted something, hang on, I wanted something that would do these small rounds without having to take the vise off and set up a big rotary table. So I've bought this little mini rotary table and I'm going to give that a go. So that's first time out for this. Anyway, I just need to get that set up, which is quite easy because I've got a pin made for it. Right, I've got that zeroed. I can now take the pin out of the mill. Take that pin out of the mill, because the pin is also my fixture pin. So that's got a 4mm hole in there, and that will fit on there. I don't recommend you try this at home. There's the finished result. Came out quite well, and I will just say again, don't copy what I've just done there unless you want to. It's up to you. It's not the correct way to do it, but there was only a little bit to come off the corners and I was going into the cutter, so if the cutter snatched it would pull it away from me anyway, so that's fine. That's worked out okay. I like this little rotary table. I think you're going to be seeing that a lot. Right, we'll take this over to the lathe now and get the shaft turned down. Okay, I'm just going to put the chamfers on these now. Just get that cleaned up and then I'll show you. There it is. Thread on that end. Just got to make the pin for that end, but I'll do that off camera. That's all, folks. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit the like button. I would also appreciate it if you would click the subscribe button, because that will enable me to grow the channel so that I can keep making these videos. Please leave a comment or a question. I do read all of the comments and reply to as many as I can. Thanks for watching.